Hey look, we're talking about Tower of God again. If you haven't read it yet, go read it. If that's all you get from this video and you click off now, that's fine. But go read Tower of God. If you want to hear more and what I'm talking about again, stick around. The title and thumbnail probably told you what I'm going to talk about, but hey, trust me, just stay. Watch the video. Do it. If you do, you're a cool guy. Anyway. Right. So I've continued reading Tower of God and we're now past where the Hell Train was. I've finished the Name Hunt Station. Absolutely fantastic arc. I absolutely loved where it was and what happened in it, but that's not specifically what we're going to be talking about in this video, so I want to move away from there and on to the topic that I do want to talk about, and that is the Floor of Death, or the Hell Floor. I've heard it called a few different things. For me, in the translation I read on Webtoon, it was the Floor of Death. And I, personally, really enjoyed it. I'd heard a few less than, not say, they weren't necessarily bad things, but less than positive. People were saying it wasn't as good as the previous arcs, and while I can definitely agree, it's not as good as the workshop battle. But I do think the Floor of Death maybe doesn't get as much credit as I think it deserves, because I personally really enjoyed the Floor of Death. I really liked the fight scenes we had, and actually, I think that might be the crux of it. The Floor of Death is a lot more action than anything, past like one really big reveal. And if you've read Tower of God, you know what that one really big reveal on the Floor of Death is. It's Balm's past, well, a little bit of Balm's past, and also we get, info on who Enryu is, what happened on the Floor of Death and why it's the way it is. But mainly, it's Balm's past. And if that's all the Floor of Death really was there for, I think that's enough for it to be an arc worth talking about in, way more positively than it perhaps does get talked about. Because it's really good. Like, the big reveal... I know, I'm just going to keep repeating what I said, aren't I? That's just typically what my videos tend to be, but whatever. The reveal of Balm's past and who Arlene is, and we get a pretty big reveal, Arlene Grace, Fug referring to all, putting Grace in a lot of their Slayer names, the G in Fug meaning Grace, wondering what the connection between Arlene and Fug are. Also V, Balm's father, what happened with him? He killed himself, but is that really what happened? Who knows? But I don't. Maybe I'll find out if I keep reading. And obviously there's more to Balm's past that we haven't been told, and neither has Balm, that we will presumably find out about later on in the story, because it's been told that we'll find out about it later, and that there's a chance that Balm might resent Garam for not telling him some of this stuff sooner. And it's going to be really interesting to see what comes of that. That's something I'm really looking forward to. But what if we ignore the big Balm reveal? What really does the Floor of Death have in it, other than the Balm reveal? Well, yeah, not really much else. Like, we get to find out about the Red Witches and their village on the Floor of Death, and that there's a whole lot more of them other than just Hwarian, which should have been pretty obvious that there was more than just Hwarian, because we even see that Evan also has the ability of a guide. He can see the future. We also get Hackney, who has Grand Jar's eyes, who, after he looked upon Enryu, was able to see the future, which implies that Enryu is very heavily connected to the Red Witches, at least in some way. Well, probably more than a slight way, given that Enryu, his main aesthetic is all this red, the Red Witches, the ability to see the future, Red Shinsu. But yeah, apart from that, we don't really get much on the Floor of Death in terms of, anything really happening specifically. Like, Kun doesn't really do much, he doesn't really scheme. There's a little bit where he gets to be a little bit smart, he's a bit suspicious of Hwarian. Well, that's all he really does on this floor, and obviously, Rak isn't around, because he goes missing after the end of the Name Hunt Station. I now know where he is, because I've just got into the hidden floor, data floor, whichever you want to call it. That's where I am now, if you want a bit of perspective, and when I finish that, I'll probably end up talking about it, so hit the notification bell, leave a like, sub, so you can stay up to date for when I talk about more of this Tower of God stuff. Enough of that shameless self-promotion, let's carry on. Where was I? Yes. The rest of the characters don't really do much. A lot of it is... Well, Yurik shows up. Yurik does quite a bit, and we find out that Heljo got power from Yurik because the Red Thryssa, which is basically... You could consider it the offspring of the dead administrator, was given to him. Well, he found it and gave it to Heljo, who then effectively got twisted by great power that was far, far from something he would have been able to attain through normal means by himself. I mean, we get to see Yurik and how unbelievably, strong he is, where he can beat Karaka with a single finger. Like, that's insane. That he's stronger than Karaka. Well, one of his fingers is stronger than Karaka. Like, he really is the strongest man in the tower that we're aware of at this time being, and that's what everybody calls him. He's, the strongest person in the tower, and he very clearly is. How much he stacks up to Jihad, who knows, but we've not really seen anything from him. And even on, the data floor, we'll only see past Jihad before he became, the king of the tower and effectively a god. So it'll be really interesting to see, how he stacks up against everyone else and how Balm will eventually get to this level, because Balm's probably going to exceed Yurik if he ever wants to stand a chance against Jihad, which will be interesting. And yet again, we see Balm getting even stronger. He's pulling even further ahead of the rest of his group and all the, the major side characters. He's pulling even further ahead of them, and they are falling behind. And that's definitely one big complaint I've seen about Balm as a character. He does get very strong very quickly and doesn't really give anybody else a chance to catch up. Because, what can, I don't know, for example, Wagner. Wagner's doing some very interesting shit. Like, he's working with Rachel so he can eventually stab her in the back. That's really cool. But, if you compare Wagner and Balm, you can't. They're on complete different levels. And that's obviously an extreme case, because Wagner is, physically at least, one of the weaker members of Balm's friends, of Team Sweet and Sour. But still, it's kind of extreme how big of a difference there is between Balm and everybody else. And the gap just seems to be getting wider now that he's gained the power of the Red Thryssa. And he already had the power of an administrator before acquiring it, which is presumably the demon that we saw within him when he was in the rice pot, which is seemingly probably another part of the administrator from the Floor of Death. Maybe. I don't know. I can't really, claim to know anything for the time being on that, because I've not caught up to it, and I might get proven wrong. I might get proven right. We'll find out. But yeah. The Floor of Death, I really liked it. While not much important really happens, we get to see Pobedao Gustang do something really interesting. Like, he heals Rachel from poison just by looking at her. And also, does some sneaky shit and gives her a little free bonus that she didn't earn at all and doesn't deserve, but hey, she gets it. I mean, I love Rachel as a character. I hate her as an individual, but she's a really good villain, and is probably one of the most important characters to the progression of the story in Tower of God. But we'll talk about Rachel in detail, maybe in the future, when I do a character analysis or something later down the line. But, yeah. Tower of God is really good. I'm really enjoying it. And I think the Floor of Death doesn't get as much credit as I think it deserves, primarily because of the Balm reveal. It does get carried by that one moment. Other than that, it's just a bunch of action scenes, but they're good action scenes at the very least. So, cut it some slack, and yeah, it's pretty good arc. I did really enjoy it. And I think with that, we'll end the video here. So, I've already told you to leave a like, and if you haven't already, go on, drop one. Be nice. Treat me. Go on. Go ahead and do it. It's free. The like button's free. It doesn't cost anything. I should stop being shameless and just move on. Anyway, I've been Animosity. You've been you. I hope to get you on next time for another video. Ta-ta. For now.